are live this Sunday evening. How are you doing, brother?
Awesome. I'm really excited to be here. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. We've got we've got some questions to answer tonight. What do you say about that? You want to tell people how this came about and why we're doing this tonight?
Well, so we've been, trying to inspire people to, get involved in the spiritual warfare. And some of the things that you're going to, run up against as soon as you start sharing information and truth with people are generally these types of questions that we've got put together tonight and answered. So we're trying to give people a bit of a leg up on how we fight spiritual warfare. And basically, if you want us to work fighting with you, if you follow any of these points or standouts, then we can just simply come in and just add more clarity onto these different topics.
Yeah, totally. So we've got 12 questions that have been given to us that are the ones that we hear from atheists, right? So these questions are sort of catered towards the atheist, and so these are just arrows in the quiver that we're hoping to be able to give to people answers to these common questions that we hear from atheists. Um, what else is going on, brother? Anything else catching your attention?
Yeah, not so much. More Vatican control. We're going to be getting into that content later on in this week. But no, this is probably the most important possible topic, besides obviously Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Good catch.
We wouldn't have a race or a species if there wasn't for mothers all the way back to Eve. And so yeah, I'm excited that we're able to bring forth such a truthful podcast on such an important day, right? And we not only honor the mothers, we honor our mothers' mothers and our daughters who are mothers and our nieces and our aunts and all females alike. We just have a special place. Some of the strongest leaders in the history of creation have been the mothers, right? And we give nothing but respect and love back for them. But for the information tonight, it is basically the types of questions that you do generally find with not only atheists, but anyone who is generally a skeptic of the truth. And most of the stuff that we're going to be going through tonight through deductive reasoning is what we're left with. And it's not that Jason or I has chosen. So the truth itself is a roaring lion seeking who may devour. We don't need, the truth does not need Jason or I. It is the truth. It is self-evident. It is what is. And we're just here to share and witness unto it. And, to keep our words, our yeses, and try to heal ourselves and doing that, inspire other people to try to live a healthier, happier lifestyle where we're spiritually connected, where we're connected to the earth and our virtual reality, for the lack of a better word. And this illusion of life, we'd like to keep it as a best possible scenario. If this is a choice-based outcome reality, we want to try to arm everybody with the correct choices that we make when asked questions from certain types of individuals, not just atheists. Okay, you'll find a lot of people who believe in religianity, which is something that Jason and I have been vehemently against. All forms of organized religion are wrong and incorrect. But tonight we're going to talk about what is and how we deduce what is correct.
Yeah, so we've got some written answers that I think what I'll do is maybe after the hangout, I'll take these the text part of these answers and I'll put them in comments so that if anybody wants specifically to look at, here's your tool for this question, here's your tool for this question. So we've got the written text prepared for us tonight that we'll be going through, but the big thing is going to be adding some commentary and some extra, you know, insight, extra thoughts on these topics. Now, one of the things that I'm hoping we can get out of our chat tonight is some of their input on these answers, and also maybe more questions. So if somebody has questions that they have difficulty answering to people where you know that you're fighting for some sort of truth, but you don't feel like totally capable of answering some certain question, please give them to us, because what we'll do is we'll sit down and we'll prepare something and try to give the best responses that we can back to you, and then you can try and use that and let us know how it goes, because this whole thing is about trying to win souls over to life, right, as opposed to souls being lost to death.
So, that ultimately your heart's compass. So if you have your heart's compass set in the right direction, it doesn't matter which way the wind blows, you're still going to end up constantly correcting the steering into the correct destination. So it's not about winning souls. It's about explaining to people, in my opinion, what the truth is, and then it's up to everyone else to stand with or without the truth. Ultimately, that's the goal of myself and many others on this small but powerful team, is just simply to witness to the truth. That's all we've ever wanted to do right from the beginning of time. We're not tyrants. We're not trying to overthrow kings and queens. We don't care about kings and queens. We serve the truth. And that's what we're here tonight. And I hope we're able to edify you guys on the other side of the screen, because this is what Jason and this is what we're passionate about, fighting for truth, right? It's, what is it? Sunday, May 14th, 8:18 Central Standard Time in the PM. And what we want to do right now, more than anything else, and the entire possibilities of this virtual reality, is be here tonight with you and to go over what is truth.
And one thing I'd like to toss on top of that, so you might be asking yourself, well, how is it that Ronnie and Jason know all these truths and, everybody else has it wrong? So there's a couple of layers. I mean, first you have to break through and understand that there is a new world order, and that everything that we've been taught and we've seen on television, all these things are, they're psyops, right? They're psyops to control your mind. And so the thing that I just recommend the most is, if you want to sharpen yourself, you need to have somebody else as committed to the truth as you, that you can bounce things off of. And so the reason why Ronnie and I have been able to refine the things that we talk about to the level that we do is because we've been both researching this topic for 7 years now. And what we do is, when we put something out there, the other person challenges it. They don't just suck it up like, oh, okay. No, there's like honor at stake here, where you don't want to be on the side against truth. You want to be on the side with the truth. And so both of us will be skeptical, critical, test the other person to make sure that what we're talking about is accurate. So finding the true map, it was a collaborative process. Working to find the true names, it was a collaborative process. Each and every one of these things, we do our part and then share it with the other, and then we have somebody to test and do the back and forth and all the double checks on. And so if you want to make real progress spiritually, you need to have somebody to do that with. You need to have a spiritual sparring partner to make yourself sharper. And so we're just going to recommend to everybody to seek out somebody of like mind that's actually interested in trying to further themselves in this topic, if you are, and really letting each other know that you want to work on this together as a team, and you really will see much better results. I highly encourage it.
Yeah. And make sure that you don't pick people that always just say yes to you, right? The people that I have around me are people that constantly challenge me, that make me do the extra research, that make me want to be more than I am. And when I have a bad performance, or I don't have the right attitude, they tell me. Keep those types of people around you. Listen, the truth is the truth. It hurts. Sometimes the truth is utterly painful, but it always sets you free in the end. That's why we're truthers. So thanks for being here tonight, bro. I'm really excited. I know you've put in some serious work into making the slides and the presentation for tonight, as well as, coming up with the answers, as well as me, sort of going back and forth. Like you said, we bounce things off each other. Through deductive reasoning, we question each other's motives and compass, and also the types of words that we speak. We're always listening and introspectively trying to understand and evaluate each one of our small but powerful members of this team. And we're hoping that you on the other side of the screen will end up with us on Team Truth, because that is the divider. We are here for the truth and only the truth and nothing but the truth. And if we're wrong or incorrect with anything that we might say here tonight or moving forward in the future, or anything that you find that we've said in the past, bring it up to us, show us where we're wrong, and we're going to stand together with you in the truth. And that's what makes us different from anywhere else that you're going to go.
Yeah, so the last thing I want to mention is, I put in the title, so we have a transit coming up real soon, so that when we come back, Before we go into the slides, what I'd like to do is cover this transit that's coming up, because it's got a really unique possibility to it. It could be really exciting. And this is coming up May 17th. So my goal is to get as many people's eyes on this, paying attention, looking from the area that you're at, because some of us might have cloudy skies, and only some of us are actually going to be in the path of this transit coming up. So on the other side, we'll cover and talk about that, just letting people know that's coming up as well. Anything else, brother? All right. We'll see you on the other side, everyone. And we are back. So we got a comment from Solid Tank in the chat, and talking about suffering. So I appreciate that we have people already starting to put these types of comments out there, because that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, we'll get to that similar answer, and that'll all be tied together later on in one of the questions for sure. And again, I'll repeat, anybody who wants an in-depth response, please leave a comment after the video posts in the live stream in the comment section below. Jason is the comment guy. Okay, if you want to have a full in-depth, he can give you a full response. And so I'm really looking forward to, if everybody's tuned in, what we're looking at on the screen right here. Jason's going to let everybody know there's an occultation that's going to take place with the moon and Jupiter.
Yeah, so I just heard about this recently, and so when I decided to look into it, I saw some interesting possibilities coming up. So I just want everybody to be aware that the moon is to occult Jupiter on May 17th. You may not quite understand what that is. We're going to go into detail on this for a second. And so if you look into this, the lunar occultation of Jupiter, it's happening in the morning hours. And it says the moon will pass in front of Jupiter, creating a lunar occultation visible from countries and territories, including Canada, the contiguous United States, Greenland, and Mexico, and others. So I've got a map coming up that we're going to be able to see whether or not you're in it. And so here's the map. You can see that it goes from the corner of Estonia over here. It misses most of Europe. You've got Norway, Finland, Sweden, those. You've got North England, but then it's Iceland, Greenland. And then it's the east coast of the Americas, North Americas.
It's interesting where it's the delineation line just around, it looks like Estonia area, all the way down again through the Atlantic. And then just cutting off, I guess, California, Los Angeles, Vancouver, Alaska. They're not going to make it to see the occultation, but it looks like we are. Excellent.
Yeah, so we're right in this range where the sunlight's going to start cutting off part of it for us, and but we should get to see this. So on the morning of the 17th, what we're going to be doing is going out and taking a look to the east. I'll show you guys. Now you have to find this for your own time, but let's go ahead and rewind this a little bit, get it back into the morning hours. So here we are looking east, and as soon as we're going to pay attention to what phase the moon is in. So it's coming up here. Now what I'm going to do is lock us to this. And so we should be able to zoom in. So just a little bit north of east, but pretty much looking east, you're going to see a sliver of the moon. And it's going to be this little 3% sliver. All right, so you've got Jupiter that's going this way, moon going this way, but remember the moon goes slower than the fixed stars. So what's going to happen is the moon's going to sort of fall backwards across this right here. And you'll see that for us, right around 6:11, it's going to just be to the point where Jupiter's going to start going behind here. But here's the thing that I think is interesting. So when I first came into Flat Earth, Eric Dubay was telling people about being able to see stars through the moon. And then we've all seen the Middle Eastern religious symbols that have the crescent moon with a star showing through it. Well, this is Jupiter, and Jupiter is it's big, it's bright, it's the morning star right now. And so even the sun hasn't come up right now, but you can see that the sky is starting to brighten here a little bit. I believe our sunrise is at around 6:30, so, or 6:35. So right around here, if I zoom back out, you'll see that the sun should be coming up any minute now. There comes the sun. So the sun's above the horizon, and for us, we have Jupiter in It's sort of in the center of the moon right there. So my big question, and the reason why I want so many people to pay attention to this, is that with this crescent shape right here, and Jupiter being right here, we've seen the moon in phases where there's nothing to this backside of the moon right here. It's just the exact same color as the sky. There's no apparent moon there. Now, we've seen other times where even though it's, you know, a sliver of the moon, part of the backside of the moon is still visible. When you go to film it, you still will see, you know, some light on this backside. I don't know what kind of moon we're going to have here. If this is just going to be a sliver and then there's going to be blackness here, and maybe Jupiter's going to be seen right in the middle of it. And to me, that would just be one of the greatest virtual reality proofs you could possibly imagine, because
Totally. But we're not rapture watchers trying to fill you up with nonsense. All the evidence that we've seen so far has shown that the star that's being occulted by the moon, not dependent on the phase, does seem to disappear. So this would overthrow all the evidence that we have if we are to witness star Jupiter shining through the opaque section of the moon. So that's what we're trying to point out here, is Jason's trying to say that. And also, this takes place as Jupiter moves into Aries.
yeah, that's what I was going to say next. You
Continue, please.
No, go ahead. I mean, you called it, because
You got it. Go.
all right. Well, remember, we figured out how to turn on these constellation markers right here. So technically on the 17th, the moon and Jupiter are still in Pisces, but look at how close they are to coming through to Aries, because right here's, I'll give you a little bit more perspective. Here's Pisces. This line right here is the ecliptic. So you can see that, you know, this whole distance from here to here is Pisces. And then once Jupiter comes into Aries, one of the things that we've shown recently is that it's going to be there for the entire year. Jupiter is not going to leave Aries until after Passover next year. And so that's a pretty big trip, and I think it's interesting that it's just crossing, Jupiter's just crossing in here now, and that this could potentially be that religious symbol with the crescent moon and the star in the center of what would supposed to be the moon, right? And look, it's just about ready to cross over into Aries. So I'm excited about this. I wanted to let people know about this so that we could get some watchers out there. That we need trustable, reliable people. I've looked at the videos that are on YouTube of previous moon Jupiter transits like this, and they all trim out what would be considered the gravy section. They clip it where it's just like a 30-second clip. As soon as it disappears, that's it. They don't show the rest of it. Now, some of those occultations or transits take place like when the moon is full. All right, so when the moon is full, you wouldn't have the possible expectation of seeing the star in the crescent when it's a full moon. But here we have really the perfect situation where we have just this little crescent right here. And if this is going to be some black moon right here, would we see Jupiter right there? That would be amazing. I just wanted to share that. And we can get into our slides if you like. Anything else you have to say about the celestial events coming up?
Start watching, right? Everybody just look up, start getting used to the houses of the sky. There's 12 of them, the constellations, and you can see here Jason has the pink lines indicating the foundations or the perimeters of each house. And Jupiter is passing through after going behind the moon into Aries, the Lamb, right? Nissan in the sky for a whole entire year. So this is pretty special, and I'm looking forward to it. It's next Wednesday, correct? Wednesday morning?
Next Wednesday morning, yeah. So just before sunrise, I think, is when most people should be looking. And then so for us, our location, what's expected here, so the sun is up already, right? But they do say that we are going to see, let me lock this one more time. They do say that we are going to see it come out right here. And that, whoops, that's not what I wanted to happen. And that there would, even though the sun is up, Jupiter will still be bright enough, is what they're saying, that we would see it come out on the other side of the disk. The question is it going to be seen in this area? It really does line up super. It's like right through the middle of it. Right, if you look at the way it's cut right there, it's not a perfect middle, but it's a close to middle. So see what it is for your location, everyone. All right.
Yeah, and leave a comment below if you need any help sourcing or locating the time and certain compass headings to look up into the sky. We will help. Just leave a comment below the video.
So these are the slides. This is the first one, and we're starting off with the most basic of the questions, and that is, what is truth? So the answer that we came up with is, truth is a statement regarding something that exists or has an actuality to it. Things that do not exist or have no actuality to them are fictitious. Fictitious statements are either errors if made in ignorance or lies if made intentionally. Only accurate statements about things that exist or have an actuality to them can be called truth. Exaggerations or inaccurate statements regarding things that exist or have actuality to them still are not truth. So what do you think of that statement, brother?
Yeah, it's truthful in all essences of the word truth. So again, truth is a statement regarding something that exists, right? It has to be something that exists. It can't be something that you imagine or that you've done through a thought experiment, right? That will always lead you into errors. It has to be something that exists and has an actuality to it. Anything else is made up, fictitious, or a thought, right? So only accurate statements about things that exist or have an actuality to them can be called truth. It's very basic. It's the statement that's just, it's beholden unto itself. It's self-evidently truth.
Mm-hmm. So you're going to see, everyone, the language that I tried to use, I tried to make it as generic as possible, that it would actually translate to all situations and all things. So when I'm using language like something that exists or has an actuality to it, what I'm trying to cover is all the bases. So things that exist have to be said to be real. They exist. So the table, the chair, the tennis ball, all these things, if they're there, right, they exist. So the actuality to it is to cover for the things that are sort of transient. So this can be our words. You can have said something, not something, said something, but you can't, once they've been said, unless if it's written, right? But a spoken word, it just disappears, right? But it has an actuality to it if it did exist. So if it was said, it's got an actuality to it, even though it may not exist at the moment right now. So just trying to use language that covers all the bases. So if anybody has any questions regarding why I would make these statements this way, please ask them, because there's probably a reason why it was worded the way it is, even if it seems a little convoluted or possibly difficult to understand.
Nah, it's not. It's very basic. Very basic. And we will get these questions and answers in text form in the description box and a pinned comment later on.
Yeah, so we can go back to any of these later, but let's keep going. The second question that we had was, how do we detect truth? So research must be done to confirm that the statement made refers to something that exists or has actuality regarding it. If something is found to exist or have an actuality, research must be done to confirm that all the statements made regarding it are accurate. One of the easiest ways to discover hidden truths is to look at the inverse of what mainstream media promotes due to Azazel's propensity to invert all truths. So what do you think about that statement, brother? .
Sorry, I unmuted myself there. Again, it stands self-evident. Again, how do we detect truth? Research must be done to confirm that the statement made refers to something that exists. So we're going back again to the first question. How do we detect truth? Well, first we have to detect what is. Does it exist in itself, in its natural setting, the way that we find it? Is this what we're investigating? Once we have that, then we go on and it says here, if something is found to exist or have an actuality, research must be done to confirm that all the statements made regarding it are, again, accurate. Because you can have a situation where 3 people will say that the sky is a different shade of blue. So what you have to do is develop a tool that's outside of all 3 different perspectives that captures what is. And therefore, you have to do through deductive reasoning and through tuning. Anything could be found more and more accurate as long as you're continuing to try to refine the process.
Absolutely. And so I just threw this last statement on here for those that might want to go looking for hidden truths, right? You want to discover something and you want to share it and just sort of have the fun of finding that hidden truth. Well, the technique that we've used that's been most beneficial is to look at the inverse of what's being said about something. So if they say Earth is spinning, then you stop and you look for the evidence that it's not spinning. If they say it's anything, whatever they say, just try looking at the inverse of it and testing to see whether or not that might actually be the truth.
Well, wasn't it The Simpsons that had Opposite Day or some certain other television shows where, you know, it's commonly known, whatever the TV tells you, it's the opposite of the truth. Whatever the government says, it's the opposite of the truth, right? We always flip everything 180 to its reciprocal, and we do not state that everything that they say will be flipped, because that's an easy way to be led to destruction, because then they just have to tell you the truth, and then you're going to flip it into what is a lie. So generally, the fastest way to try to discover what is doing the opposite of what the controllers or agents tell you it is. So I thought that was an excellent add-on. Very well done for question number 2. So if there's 12, we'll do 3, then a song. And I think we've got 2, so we got 3 song breaks and then an outro left, correct?
Yeah.
Just try to keep it all even out. So that's 2. Unless you wanted to add more to this, I think this was a great slide. And I really like, if anyone else is paying attention, you might have this on a large screen television. We generally hope that you do learn how to watch these on large screen TVs. You'll notice that Jason's done some very subtle animations to the text. This is very well put together, bro. Thank you very much for putting in this time. I appreciate it.
No problem. So here's slide number 3. All right, this one's a longer one, so I'm going to have to do some scrolling. The question that was posed is, why do we have to blindly believe something that is hard to prove? So the answer we have here is blindly believing anything is ill-advised. Hard to prove truths need to be addressed by looking at everything that can be proven surrounding the truth that is hard to prove. Deductive reasoning is the tool we can use to come to conclusions that seem impossible to verify. The process of elimination reduces the amount of variables that can exist, and sometimes only the truth remains when all other possibilities have been eliminated. Sometimes multiple possibilities remain, and all we have is a narrow group of possibilities. In these instances, we can assign probabilities to what the truth is, but we cannot be certain until more information is made available. So I guess this isn't a longer one. Go ahead, brother.
Well, instantaneously, what we're suggesting here is that all truth is evolving, right? Unlike the species, we're actually devolving, right? We're getting shorter lifespans and not getting stronger. The truth only becomes stronger over time. The more information you add to something that is true, the more it verifies and witnesses unto it. I really like the way that you've crafted together the words in your statements to show people that once all wrong possibilities have been eliminated, you are left with the truth. And sometimes it's still multiple possibilities of truths that are still left on the table because they're not fully proven, only until more information is added to these different individual cases, are we then able to come to a better understanding of what is true.
Yeah, but deductive reasoning will often get us down to just a couple of solid options. And all right, so here's an example for everybody. Believe it or not, there are only 3 models of reality. There's only 3. All right, so the first one is heliocentrism, where we're on a spinning ball flying through space. The second one is that we're in a pressurized pizza dome, right, where the sun, moon, and stars are all doing circles over our head. And the third one is that we're in a virtual reality. So if you sit down and you look at the evidences for or against the possibilities, in heliocentrism, right away we see that there's no proof of rotation, there's no proof of curvature, and so that model is impossible, so we can eliminate it, just throw it out. And then we look at the Freemason pressurized pizza dome, and we see the sunrise and sunset angles of, in the south, anything south of the equator, and we see that the Freemason pressurized pizza dome is impossible, so we can throw that out. So right away, through deductive reasoning, you've already been left with just one option. Now you can continue to go farther and look for the proofs that you're in a virtual reality, but you can actually know that you're in one just by reducing the other 2 options.
And through deductive reasoning.
Yeah.
Finding out that everything in this reality actually circles around you, right? As it rises in your circle of sight, and that the luminaries aren't physical that you think they are. It's a supernatural, spiritual element, right? And it all revolves around each and every one of us. It's beautiful, and it's something to be learned and to be studied. So I definitely think it's probably time for another song break. I'm really looking forward to this one. We're enjoying all the music tonight. So far, so good. We've got 9 more?
Yeah. So we absolutely recommend that you do not blindly believe everything. Prove it. Prove it, prove it, prove it. Test it, and if it's something that's not testable, use deductive reasoning to come to the best conclusions possible. We'll see you on the other side, everyone.
Every day
And we are back. Sorry about that cut, everybody. We had already played that song. So I decided we should just
let's
switch to the right one, right?
That's what you do. That's all you can do. Let's just keep going and don't bring it up again. It's fine. We all make mistakes. You're supposed to be kind to yourself, even though you make mistakes. So this is a more important question. While you get the background music back up, I'll just continue to let everybody know that we strongly want everyone to do their own research, question every single thing that you hear us say, right? See if we're wrong, because then if we're wrong, you can correct us and we'll stand in a higher level of truth. That's the goal here.
Yeah, so our next slide is, how do we know that Yahawashai was a real person and not just a fairy tale? All right, so these are the questions that come from atheists. I've heard it myself many a times. The answer that we have is the history of the Hebrews is well documented. There is no denial that the temple in Jerusalem was sacked in 70 AD by the Romans. There is no denial that was the second temple and that the first temple was constructed in 957 BC and destroyed in 586 BC by the Babylonian army. All of the accounts of the nations that were in power and the people that were friends or foes of the Hebrews in the Bible match secular history. As to the character Yahawashai and his actual existence, there is no human more recognized. Herod is known to have killed the 2-year-old boys in the region in an attempt to assassinate Christ. The Roman Lentulus, the governor of the Jerusalemites, acknowledged Christ's existence and gave physical descriptions of Yahawashai and accounts of his actions. Historian Josephus, who was born shortly after Christ's execution, recognized Yahawashai as a real human. Pilate's role in condemning Christ was attested to by historian Tacitus. The Council of Nicaea 325 AD and subsequent councils were based off of the ministry of Yahawashai and his requirements of his followers. All of the councils acknowledged Christ's existence and only argued about what he taught. In the year 525 AD, counting the years from Yahawashai began, and now everyone in the world keeps track of time based on Yahawashai's existence. No person in history has had more written about them and is as well known as Yahawashai. If we look at the impact fictitious characters have had on the world, there is no comparison.
Wow. You know, you put so much into the 5 paragraphs there. We could literally do 10 podcasts going through every single detail of Christ's path and how we can verify his validity, but you've summarized it here great. So if we go back up, so right off the bat, we're talking about Christ's prophecy that the Jerusalem would be destroyed and the temple would be taken down, not a stone left upon it. Took place. The prophecy was fulfilled in 70 AD. And then what we have as we scroll down further, we get the understanding of the first prefect or the governor of the region of Judea, who the modern day Jews try to pretend that they're descendants of. So the southern region of Israel was called Judea, and Jerusalem was in Judea. And Lentulus was the prefect or the governor of the time when Christ was, they weren't hunting him down to be dead yet. So Lentulus was Pontius Pilate's predecessor in the region. Okay, and Lentulus spent time on the road. He was given a task to write back to the Rome headquarters and give an account, and he wrote about what Christ looked like. He gave a testimony as to what Christ was saying, how he was this prophet of truth, is who Lentulus called him. And then the followers of Christ went on to say that they were saying that he was the son of Yahawashai, right? And Lentulus called him the prophet of truth, and the followers did. So then you have, coming after Lentulus, you have Josephus, who gave an account writing on Tacitus's words about what Pilate's role was with the arresting, condemning, and sentencing of the Savior, the Son of Yahawashai, Christ, Yahawashai, to his death. So we're not only not using just the Hebrew Gospels written by the Hebrews, right? We're also going to other parts of the world here in this evidence, showing you that
Secular sources, we might call them.
non-Hebrew people, non-tiny hat wearing, you know what they are. None of those people. This is people that killed him are the ones that are testifying to his existence, right? And the very fact alone, if the question is where did the body of Christ go? I mean, you can't have a debate about where did a body go if the body never existed in the first place. Now, you're going to find a lot of people that try to, through cognitive dissonance, come up with all kinds of things that the scriptures were written by this person or by that person. But the mountain of parabolic language that overlays and interlocks as you add scripture upon scripture is a story far too finely tuned than you could ever take away with just simply trying to state that Christ was the sun god, because you use some type of homophobic rant where you think that because in English the word sun, S-O-N, is like the word S-U-N, but if you look at it into any other language, the sun is soul, right? You're not going to have sun and sun being the same. It's a witchcraft, homophobic, I guess there's, for the lack of a better word, is the only debate that you'll ever find against Christ. So if there's anybody that wants a further detailed answer, leave us comments in the comment section below. We could go way more in depth into proving the validity and the veracity of Christ's life and what happened and the things that were documented from multiple different groups and generations of people wrote about it.
Yeah, so you've got the secular historians that wrote about Christ. Then you have all these councils that took place where they got all the bishops and priests, or whatever you wanted to call them back then, the top religious leaders of the time. They would come together and meet, and they would all argue about what was doctrine. Now, notice that they weren't arguing whether or not Christ existed, right? That wasn't even a question. They were arguing about doctrine, things that he said. There was the good guys that were trying to keep it straight, and there were the bad guys that were trying to twist things. They were trying to...
There was people saying, no, he wasn't saying he was the son. He was saying he was God.
Right?
And then you had the two sides arguing, hey, we're not supposed to worship anyone else other than Yahawashai. That's what the son literally told us to do. And these people are saying, no, we're going to worship the son. He is the father, right? And then obviously we know that Constantine and the Council of Nicaea won, and then they started murdering people and so on and so forth. Well, anyone who was telling the doctrine of reincarnation and that you'll be reborn again if you have faith and trust in Yahawashai's passion, anybody that knew that and said that was murdered by Constantine and everybody that sat at the Council of Nicaea's vote.
And then 500 years after Christ, right? They made it so that our calendar count is supposedly to his birth date. So everybody in the world right now, when we say we're in the year 2023, that's
since Christ's birth.
Since Christ's birth. Right? So how could you fake a person's existence and have the entire world keeping time based on that person? Right? Yeah. It just doesn't make sense.
But like I said, we can go way more in depth into this if people are interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you've done an excellent job, and all these questions and answers will be made text and available. Definitely in the Telegram group, Reality Check Chat, where you can comment and participate. They'll be put in there too soon enough.
All right. So our next question. How can we prove that we have the correct timeline? We think we are in the year 5993. Can we prove this? All right. So this is a question directed straight at Ronnie and I. Don't know if anybody else is really talking about being in the year 5993, but we have talked about this. So here's our response. We cannot prove that, but we can explain why we believe that. A simple search of how many years from Adam to Christ will give links to genealogies that spells out with detail how many years it was from Adam to events like the flood, which was 1656 years later. From the flood to Abraham's departure from Chaldea when he was 70, being 422 years and 10 days. From Abraham's departing to Moses' departing with the Israelites from Egypt, being 430 years. From the Israelites' departure from Egypt to the building of the first temple, 480 years. From the building of the first temple to captivity in Babylon, 419 years. To captivity in Babylon was 70 years. From the time Jerusalem should be built up again to the birth of Yahawashai was 483 years. That totals 3,960 years. The question we are not able to answer with certainty is how old was Christ when he was executed? If Yahawashai was 33 years old at his death, and he returns 2,000 years later to establish his millennial reign, that would put us in the year 5993. The 7-year Great Tribulation begins this year. The date that was chosen for Yahawashai's birth year, that we all keep our calendars based off of, has Christ's birth being 2023 years ago, and we do not know if that is absolutely correct. Yahawashai establishing his millennial reign in the year 2030 would mark 2,000 years from a death in the year 30 AD. The problem is that we are not certain of Christ's age at death or that the year 0 was the exact year he was born. We use the prophecy regarding Israel's restoration and apply it to modern-day Israel's restoration, and we see how old modern-day Israel can be when we see the 7-year Great Tribulation and Yahawashai's return upon the clouds to establish his millennial reign. On May 14th, that is today, all right, Israel celebrates its 75th anniversary since declaring independence. We are told in the Bible that the generation that sees Israel's rebirth would not pass away before the return of Yahawashai, and that a generation is 70 to 80 years. May 11th, 2023 marks the 74 years since Israel was admitted to the UN, and the 7-year Great Tribulation could still fit. Israel will be turning 81 in the last year of the Great Tribulation if the Great Tribulation begins this fall. We also contemplate the Shemitah and Jubilees when attempting to calculate the true year of the world. The Shemitah cycle consists of 7 7-year periods for a total of 49 years, and the 50th year is a Jubilee. Common logic tells us that Yahawashai's millennial reign will begin at the end of 6,000 years, which is 120 Jubilees, at the beginning of the 7th day, which is patterned from creation as the day of rest, or the Sabbath, on a Jubilee. If you look to the Bible for patterns that give clues regarding the Shemitah cycle and the end times, we see that Joseph's interpretation of the dream of the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine could parallel the timeline that Ronnie and I are on. Our ministry began October 13th, 2016 and turned 7 years old right as a 1260-day count to Passover, April 22nd, 2027 begins. Could our ministry be connected to the 7 good years, and come this fall the Great Tribulation begin, and the 7 bad years take place? We will not know until this fall, but these are the things we contemplate. Regardless of our guesses, the Great Tribulation will begin at its appointed time, and when it does, we will know the true year of the world exactly. If we are wrong about this year being 5993 and it's actually 5992 or 5991, we will make a public correction, but we felt it better to state exactly where all the evidence points us to be and err on the side of preparedness. All of the world events are setting up for either a New World Order complete takeover of the world in 2030 or Yahawashai's millennial reign beginning in 2030. We know from the Holy Scriptures what will be the case. So this was a longer one, dealing with world history. What do you have to say about this one, brother?
I thought it was interesting how, you and I started doing the truth research together. It's been 7 years of being able to store up and gather and try to heal ourselves and as many people around us, try to become like truthful people with as much information and knowledge, because we knew that most people perish due to the lack of knowledge, right? So we wanted to find and share as much knowledge and truth as we could. And here we are leading into what very well could be, right, the 7 years of destruction, right? Starting with with hopefully, the Vatican and Jerusalem too, all these occupiers and these evil crooked men. But let's take it from the top. So what we can prove, what we cannot prove, right? All we can do is there's other areas like Stellarium. Go ahead.
So what I wanted to do is go into a little bit of detail here and show people that we know that we're very close. And the reason that we know we're very close is all you have to do is do a Google search for world history from Adam until now. And you'll end up with probably this link here. So, chronological index of the years and times from Adam until Christ. So I just want you to understand that this was in the Apocrypha. The following chronology is from the first edition of the King James Version, printed in 1801. The chronology given largely follows that of Reverend James Ussher's Annals of the World, first published in 1658. Ussher's chronology divided the world's history into 6 ages from creation to the fall of Jerusalem. So those numbers that I was spitting out there actually have extreme biblical, this is what the Bible says, from Adam until Noah's floods are 1656 years, because when Adam was 150, he begat Seth, right? And then you can go through this entire list. Seth being 105 begat Enos. Right, let's just do the first one complete. Enos being 90 begat Canaan. Canaan being 70 years begat Mahalalel. Mahalalel being 65 years begat Jared. Jared at the age of 162 begot Enoch. Enoch being 65 years begot Methuselah. Methuselah at the age of 187 begot Lamech. Lamech being 182 years begot Noah. Noah at the coming of the flood was 600 years old, as appeareth in the 7th chapter of Genesis. The whole sum of the years are 1656. So these aren't numbers that we're just pulling out of nowhere. This is biblical chronology that lets us know that from Adam until the flood was 1656 years. Now the same can be done after that, where you go Noah until Abraham. Then you have this whole list here, and when you add this all up, you've got 422 years and 10 days. This is some pretty specific stuff. The next one, this chronology is 430 years, as mentioned in the 12th chapter of Exodus and the 3rd chapter to the Galatians. So this time period is well accounted for. Then you have this time period here where it was the judges, but based on their rules, were able to keep time up until the time of David. All right, and so these are the 480 years mentioned in the first book of Kings. Then we've got the building of the temple. And then with the temple, all right, they go off to captivity. And if you add up all this time, the sum of those years are 419. Then you've got the 70 years that they were in captivity. And then you've got from when they returned, right? The prophecy was Christ was going to be coming in 483 years. And that comes from the prophecy in Daniel, where we have from that time until the coming of Christ are 69 weeks, and each week is reckoned for 7 years. So 69 weeks amount to 483 years. So when you add all that up, so I double checked it. This is something I recommend everybody do. When you add up the list of all the numbers that they have above, it comes to 3960. It doesn't add up to 3974. If somebody dives into this and can show me where the discrepancy is, I would deeply appreciate it. But when this was compiled, it was compiled in the year 1801, and we are told that then the whole sum and number of years from the beginning of the world until the present year of our Lord in 1801 are 5775 years, 6 months, and the said odd 10 days. So if you add 222 years to this, all right, because 1801 to 2023, so 222 years, that'll take you to 5997. All right, so We say 5993 because we expect the 7-year Great Tribulation, and there's a discrepancy of some. This is excess years right here that I can't account for. And then we don't know that Christ was actually born in the year 0, and we don't know the year that he died, but we have some narrow ranges where we know how close we are. Then what we can do is we can look at the time period that we're in, look at all the other things that Christ said to watch for, and then we can measure, right? You catch all that, brother?
So yeah, we can, through again deductive reasoning and calculating the years and the timestamps, you can go back and check all the different kings, and there's lots of depth in how empires rose and fell. You have different types of metal, different types of advancements that the human civilization has gone through, and they've been documented pretty good. Now, it's not all true. You have to investigate, like Jason said, every single angle. You can never just assume that anything that you're reading is true until it's verified, until you validate it with other sources and with what is. So yeah, I think you've laid it out. You can do the calculations. You'll put the link below, I guess, to that count that you had, and we'll get everybody else to verify it too.
No, I'm surprised that more people aren't talking about it. I haven't heard it, but today is the 75th anniversary of Israel, right? May 14th.
Of the reformation of the occupied state of Palestine, right?
Exactly.
This is the big 75th.
Yeah, and then one more thing before we go on to the next one. Just want to show everybody that there are plenty of things out there like the histomap, right? And this is 4,000 years of world history. And so this goes back to 2,000 years BC, and so this would actually be at the time of Abraham, I do believe. And so you have these different groups of people. They call them the Aegeans, the Egyptians, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Iranians, Indians, Huns, Chinese. These were the world powers of the time. And then as you scroll through this, you'll see all of a sudden the Hebrews emerge right here. Now this wasn't written by, this wasn't made by Bible people, right? This is a history map. So they actually have records of the Hebrews popping up this time period, 1400 years BC. And then they actually even have, Joshua conquers Canaan, Book of Numbers. So all of these things are taking place. The Hebrews, what you hear in the scriptures when they're fighting against the Hittites and when they're fighting against the Amorites and all these different things, this is the reason why some of these areas are growing and some are shrinking, because these are all historical battles.
Rising and falling, as the nations and empires have, just like Rome is, again, what wasn't and is back again, and it will fall for the last time.
Yeah, so you had the Assyrians pop up at the same time, and then there's the Babylonians. They get close to being snuffed out, but not completely. I just find this chart fascinating. I just spend some time studying it, but my takeaway from it is this Hebrews, they're historical. This all took place. Nobody's really denying it. When you hear somebody say that Christ didn't exist and the Hebrews, that was all a fake, they have actual evidence that all of these things took place. They have records of it. They have archaeological proof that these people were here and there and were conquerors of this land and that, right? So it's just another way in my mind that I feel like I can prove that this all took place. Let's go on to our next slide. The next one is, I have my truth. What makes you think your truth is better? So the response is, there is no such thing as my truth or your truth. There is only the truth. Truth is 100% objective and 0% subjective. If you were talking about something that is subjective, it cannot be truth. The subjective is partial to opinion and preference, but the objective is not. The truth does not care what anyone thinks of it. It is completely impartial. It is binary in that there are only two options. It is either true or not true. Truth has no gradient to it. Any thoughts on that, brother?
Well, yeah, it's very simple. So the truth is what is true, and it's not personal. Anytime anything becomes subjective or personal, it becomes not truth. It's subjective. It's an opinion or a preference, like music or art, or we all have different avatar suits, so we feel the different things. Somebody might be cold in 60 degree weather, and somebody might be hot, and so the truth is that it's 60 degrees. And so it's just very basic understanding that truth doesn't have a gradient. It's not slightly or very true. It's true or false, on or off. It's in a binary thing, where everything else in reality isn't. Truth is a standalone divisionary tactic. The word truth is the actual division.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can pick up in the background, but there's some background art here where on the left there's a tree and it says objective reality next to the tree. And you've got these three kids here, and one of the kids sees a tree. Now, I think they should have put like a swing in it or something like that, right? Or a tree house. Then the next kid sees an apple, and then the next kid sees dollar signs, right? And then you could put the next person, the dad could see a pile of lumber, right? So all those things are subjective reality. The objective reality is that it's a tree. I just want to, a lot of times people say, well, this is my truth, your truth, that's what you believe. If anything is considered subjective, it can't be truth. You're looking at it the wrong way. If you're looking at something subjective, you have to find the thing that is objective, that there's no partiality towards. It's just the fact that it exists. And then you can be talking about truth. The moment you've added subjectivity to it, you're talking about an aspect of an objective reality, but not the actual objective reality itself. Right? So, Ronnie nailed it. It's either true or not true. There is no gradient to it.
It's just what is. It's the deciding factor. The divisionary tactic is the truth itself.
Absolutely. Our next one is, why would I follow a belief that has killed so many people? Well, first you would go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I interrupted you. Just slowing it down for a second here. So how many is it that we've got through? I don't see a number as to.
Well, we don't have any more songs left to play other than a concluding song.
We're at the outro song? Okay. How many what number are we on?
We are on number 7.
Okay, let's go.
So why would I follow a belief that has killed so many people? The answer that we have here is, first you would have to know how death entered the world. According to the Bible, Adam and Eve would have lived forever had they not sinned. Death is a result of sin. There was a time period given to mankind where mankind was subject to death, and at the end of that time period, there is a judgment, and from that point on, death will cease to exist. The wicked will go to eternal judgment, and the righteous will live eternally on a paradise earth. The deaths attributed to the Father Creator Yahawashai that people take issue with are the genocides of the enemies of the righteous. The world was so corrupt by the time of Noah that the Father had to do a complete reset except for 8 humans. It did not take long, and people like Nimrod rose to power. When the languages were scrambled, 70 different nations arose and were constantly battling each other for dominance. The Father Yahawashai made a covenant with Abraham and chose him and his seed as his people. That happened because Abraham was faithful. The protection Abraham and his descendants received included the killing of their enemies. When the Hebrews were faithful, they received the Creator's protection, and when they were not faithful, they lost that protection. When Yahawashai lived his sacrificial life 2,000 years ago, he did away with violence and instructed his followers that those that live by the sword will die by the sword. Since then, warring has been abolished, and there are no more genocides to blame on the Father for protecting his people. The lesson of how sin leads to death has been the lesson we have all been meant to learn over the course of the last almost 6,000 years. Without death, we would not have been able to have learned this lesson.
So, talking about writing the rules into the ground, right? He who has not sinned shall cast the first stone was a change to the rules. That's all we've had through the progression here of life. Since Adam, we've been getting more and more different lessons and rules as we continue to grow spiritually and, physically as a species. So we also have the change, right? That Yahawashai, he's the one that goes to war for you. We're peaceful people, right? We don't go around killing anybody, and anybody who does isn't with us. They're not on the side of truth, right? They're on the side of the wicked. They're trying to pretend to be true. So this is another great, just basic. Everybody needs to understand exactly what it is that we're teaching here and what we believe.
Yeah, so the sin led to death, and just the fact that wickedness did exist. So you had the fallen angels that came, they rebelled, and they they did what they were not supposed to do. As a result of that, there was a lot of death in the world, and in order to protect a righteous group of people, the Father had to constantly kill off the wicked who were bent on the destruction of the righteous people. Right, so the killing that he did had to be for the protection, otherwise the Hebrews wouldn't have made it.
Yeah, they would have been destroyed by all the wicked, evil men. That's why do you think the reset of the reality we're in now has to be changed today, modern day? Right? Look what these Yuval Hararis are saying now, and look what these evil monsters are doing with their philanthropy, right? While they fake space. But yeah, this was an excellent one again, brother. Sin entered the world, death entered the reality, and then action needed to be taken. And we've been learning. It's been a learning experience. So we know, hey, this is not what we're going to do. Here's the data. Someone else can learn the truth of why this had to happen.
All right. Our next one is, how can you prove that the scriptures are trustworthy if the names are incorrect? So, in the same way a computer hard drive can be rebuilt to a pristine condition after having been corrupted, so too has the Holy Scriptures been able to preserve itself. The Bible consists of the Old Testament that was written in Hebrew and the New Testament that was written in Greek. In the 3rd century BC, the Hebrew Scriptures were translated to Greek, and that is called the Septuagint. In 382 AD, the Bible was translated to Latin, and that is called the Latin Vulgate. Discoveries have been made, like the Dead Sea Scrolls, that confirm that the Holy Scriptures have remained intact. Minor differences have been ironed out or have footnotes regarding the discrepancies. The last 100 years of archaeology and the digitization of all the texts has allowed detailed analysis of all the texts, and now we can know how translations vary down to the letter counts. What has happened is that the servants of Azazel have taken it upon themselves to intentionally mistranslate certain words to push false doctrines, and they have blanked out the true names of the Father and the Son. They put the name Earth Pig in the place of Yahawashai, and they call the Creator Good. In a childish move that does nothing to prevent a person from coming to knowledge of the Father Creator Yahawashai and His Son Savior Yahawashai. The context of the narrative is not lost, but just slightly distorted. We have tools at our disposal now where we can look to see what the exact Hebrew or Greek word used was, and we can identify which translations translated words correctly and which translations distorted meanings. With this ability, we are able to restore corrupted translations and restore the narrative to pristine quality.
So I really like the way that you broke this down, the way that you've set this up for everyone to see. So with the advent of the internet, the invention of these tools that we now have at like a cell phone, any type of surfing device that gets you online, you now have the ability to restore corrupted files by gathering all the files from all the internet and then piecing together them to have the most accurate understanding or file back together, because the more context you have, the better your file will be. The more clarity, or the higher the pixel count, the better the resolution of your screen. So basically what Jason's done here is shown that if we now go and because they've, scroll back up please, they've lied and they've twisted different translations. It's very obvious, but all you have to do is line up all the translations and go through each one of them, and then you get the more correct narrative. So you built it around the corrupt hard drive to be able to be repaired back together by pieces of itself and other hard drives brought home into a new uncorrupted hard drive. It's a very excellent statement, and it makes sense.
Yeah, so I believe they call that parody when there's extra little details or information there where you can actually pull out a corrupt hard drive, put a new one in, and it can be rebuilt. The thing with all these scriptures that we have, when you double check it, because these were all hand translated, remember? I mean, this wasn't done by a computer back in the day. Mm-hmm. These were hand translated, and then you compare, this hand translation to that hand translation, and you can see the exact amount of discrepancies, but you can see now that they're not doctrinally changed, other than what they've done is mistranslated individual words incorrectly. And we do have the original ones. So if you go look up the original Hebrew or look up the original Greek word and look at the definition of the word and just use that as your basis of how to understand the context of that scripture, you'll get the correct answer. So just because they replace the names, the story of the Father and Son is not lost.
Yeah, well, and it goes back to the Adamic language, right? The original Paleo-Hebrew that Adam spoke down to the Tower of Babel, and still some passed on. Just so too as the destruction and rebirth of the wicked, so too did the true language. Transcend the Yahawashai, YHWH, is the unpronounceable name that the people that say they are the chosen people don't pronounce. And so I like how you got the Vulgate, the Septuagint, going back to the Paleo-Hebrew, right? And then you get the Greek, and then you get, basically you have to go to the interlineary. There's these search tools that we have online, and you go and you look up the discrepancies and you put them together and you clean it up. You restore the file, and it's just simple. It's basic. Anybody can do this. We recommend that every single person that ever reads the scriptures do this. If something doesn't make sense, if all of these scriptures are saying he is the Son, the Son, the Son, the Son, and then there's this one that says, and the Son is God, I think maybe there's something you might want to, look into a little bit deeper if you find a one-off, because usually the scriptures will have multiple, like just a redundant amount of corroborating evidence. Boom, boom, boom. Like the fact that most of the scriptures itself are pictographical pictures that also tell a woven through story as well, verifying its mystery to its being the most divine of all different types of languages or stories, indicating that it's so poetic and prophetic that it has multiple different stories that are ongoing. It's still alive, right? The word, it's never going to die. And I really do like the way that you put it all together here.
Thank you. We'll go on to, we're in our last three now.
We're on the last three. Well, the last Well, all of them, the first 6, they're all really, really well done. And I just want people, again, if you have any questions or if you don't understand any of this, please leave a comment below after the video post.
All right, so we have the question, how can you verify the prophecies in the scriptures are true? The answer we have is pattern recognition. You have to see a pattern of prophecies coming true. The prophecies need to be specific with dates that makes it impossible to believe that they were fulfilled by accident. If a prophecy is generic and open-ended, it generates no merit for consideration as being divine. There are 353 prophetic scriptures in the Old Testament dealing with the birth, ministry, death, and resurrection of Yahawashai. These are prophecies regarding one man, and there are many others in the Bible that were prophesied about. Remember, these are things that are foretold, sometimes hundreds of years in advance and sometimes thousands of years in advance, and sometimes coinciding with celestial events like solar eclipses and blood moons. When there is a perfect track record of all prophecies being fulfilled, we can assume that all unfulfilled prophecies will come true.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed that one right out of the park. That's the top shelf. That's key scores. So basically, through pattern recognition, right? This is the way that we analyze everything. If you don't know, the very first thing that you do when you open your eyes into this virtual reality is you start recognizing patterns, right? When you cry or you're hungry, your mom feeds you. You continue to cry to get fed. Every single thing since the day you opened your eyes, took your first breath, to the last day that we have our eyes open and breathe our last breath, you will be recognizing patterns. The sooner that you come to understand that, the better that's going to be. Now, we get into this prophecy talk, right? So we can do that through, deductive reasoning and looking at what took place. Now, there are places that you can go in the realm here where there's a just an endless amount of corroborating evidence that there was a giant cataclysm. Every single religion, just about every single different prophecy or story, not told only by the Hebrews, right? But by all these other Japanese, Chinese, all these other ones, Inca, this, that, they all have these great cataclysm event that the water came and took them all away. It's not just one. So you've got a mountain of evidence to show that. And then when you continue to find more and more prophecy, the Christ said they would destroy the temple. 70 AD, they literally, not one block was left upon another. And then what did they do? They Romans came and built a fortress there, and now you've got people that say that they're the chosen ones bowing their head down to this Roman wall because not one stone was left on top of the other, exactly the way that the scriptures was foretold. And then so prophecy is words that are spoken, that are inspired through the creator of this reality, right? And then to understand prophecy, you actually have to look backwards through time. When it's revealed or fulfilled, you only can tell looking retrospectively back in time. So it's a two stream path where you have a flow of prophetic stuff and then you have a foretold looking back retrospect flow of a river too. So it's pretty, fantastic if you really want to get into the studies of how all that's taken place.
353 prophetic scriptures, right, regarding one person. That right there tells you a lot. Now, you've had so much scrutiny, so many people have dug into this and looked, and so in the scriptures, there's this many times something was said prophetically that something happened in fulfillment of it. Right? That doesn't happen by accident, everyone. Doesn't happen by accident. So the next one is, how do we know the scriptures are authentic? All right, well, research. The knowledge must be acquired firsthand in order for you to have confidence in your conclusions. We can tell people that the oldest manuscripts corroborate each other's accuracy, but a person will not truly believe it until they check for themselves. We can tell you that thousands of prophecies are fulfilled in the scriptures already, but a person will not truly believe it until they have checked it for themselves. The act of doing the research solidifies your confidence in the scripture's authenticity as you confirm its accuracy. The act of doing the research solidifies your confidence in the scripture's authenticity as you confirm its accuracy. So you're only going to know unless if you actually do the research and do it for yourself and don't take somebody else's word for it. You can maybe have somebody that you trust, say, oh, this person I really trust said this. They do their research, right?
Right.
But
No. In the first way, do your own search, right? You're the only one that can verify anything to you. And we both do our own fact checking on everything that we talk about. Right? And if I'm wrong, Jason's like, hey, that's wrong. I'm like, thank you, man. Oh, I change it up. Or I'm like, come on, no way. So I'll do an extra dive and then send him, oh, but look at this. And then sometimes I'm wrong. He goes, nah, here's that. And it's over. We to find more truth, you have to do your own research and find multiple different sources. Like, where is everybody finding their information? The internet, is the place.
All right. I guess we got two more. We trust science, not God. Do you have scientific evidence for your worldview? First, we must get our semantics ironed out. We must know if we are talking about empirical evidence or we are talking about the Kabbalist religion called science. If we're talking about empirical evidence, then all the science is on our side. Our worldview is that of a stereographic virtual reality. Our fundamental truth number 1 addresses Earth being a fixed plane with the sky rotating around us. All empirical evidence proves that Earth is not rotating. Our fundamental truth number 2 addresses Earth having 2 polar rotations and not one. All empirical evidence proves that Earth has 2 polar rotations. Our fundamental truth number 3 addresses atoms having never proven to exist. The lack of empirical evidence by the Kabbalists that believe atoms are the source of materiality is the reason to not believe them. Empirical evidence is the reason we hold every position we hold. Science, on the other hand, holds all the positions that are unproven with evidence. Science has gravity, atoms, big bangs where everything comes from nothing, evolution, black holes, quantum entanglement, and a myriad of other made-up unproven theories. Science these days is no more than a sanitized term for being a Kabbalist. It is a religion that has its roots in Mystery Babylon.
Wow. That's a lot. We got to scroll back up to unpack this. This is quite a bit. But what we started off by explaining to people was that when you have truth, it's something it has an actuality to it. Some kind of empirical evidence that can be scrutinized over until what is left is the truth. So what we have now and today is they don't trust in, they say God, the G-O-D word, which is short form for God real, right? Which is the pagan deity that leads back to the one that tricked Eve in the garden. So when we talk about empirical evidence, basically everything that the Kabbalists have done, so they infiltrated through Babylonian religions, through the tiny hat, people that call themselves the chosen people, and then they moved into the Vatican, into the Roman Empire. They all just coalesced. Obviously, Roman and the Israelites were all living together, right? Until Rome came and destroyed everything in 70 AD that was prophesied by Christ. So what we can see is that everything that those people had was they invented a religion of, they got the Baphomet or hermaphroditic type of character because they think Adam and Cadman, they're going back to Adam before Adam and Eve when she was taken from the rib. But everything is just all taken from this putrid, gross outlook, right? Adam wasn't created hermaphroditic. That's just crazy nonsense, okay? But Kabbalist science is everything of what isn't real. So they talk about small things on the atom scale with little balls circling around little balls, which can't be testified or witnessed to. And then on the grand scale, the whole universe, they say, is larger balls spinning around other balls, right? Which we can see things in the sky rotating around, right? Rising on our horizon, going above our heads, setting, and then depending on where we are, there's an angle to that in the sky, a pitch. But other than that, right, we've never witnessed the Earth to move or any of this has ever been proven, right? We know that there's 2 possibilities that if they were able to fake the globe, sphere, Earth, they needed to come up with a way to project a sphere from a flat plane. And we found that the way that they did that was through C.S. Pierce, or was it Lewis? He created the stereographic map where he was able to take a flat representation with a four-cornered realm and then project it to a sphere, and thus saying that we lived on a globe. But first they had to draw the Earth on the flat two-dimensional stereographic level where you have two half poles on the bottom sections, and that becomes a UV mesh that overlays around a sphere and allows them to morph or, you know, skew certain sections of the flat Earth into a spherical Earth. So Jason has always said that it looks like you want to test a subject, you have to have grand possibilities. So the reality that we're in was made that you could do the research and you could try to come to some evidence that you thought you lived on a sphere, right? Well, you know, we can make it look like a sphere. Here's the map, you know, the sun's going around the equator like this, but it starts to fall apart when you understand how the sun rises due east and sets due west everywhere twice a year. This absolutely falls on its face when you put it against globular spherical math. Everything that we measure in the sky has to be done off of a flat plane, right? Measuring 0 to 90 as straight above our head. Mm-hmm. It just absolutely annihilates the spherical Earth reality. So everything that we hold true to is measurable, and we can actually go and witness it in our 3-mile circle of sight, right down to the Andrew Marsh site that Jason uses for our modeling. This is, and I know you probably know this because you're into numbers. How accurate is that model? It's so science says the tuning of reality is what is it, 10 to the 122?
Yeah.
Right. So how finely tuned is the Andrew Marsh site with giving us rise and set angles of the sun throughout a whole year, right? Perfectly showing you the shadows. How accurate is that?
100th of a degree per second.
100th of a degree per second. So again, this is how we can say, well, I can go out, I can put the Andrew Marsh thing on. It can tell me to point my compass at this angle, and I can go out and film the star rise at that angle. And we check it. We check them all, and it's absolutely correct. So it's empirically provable evidence. And these are what we actually base everything that we say. We went out and filmed clouds behind the sun. We both, all of us, everybody on this team has done it just about, right? And we found empirical measurable evidence that, hey, if those clouds are going behind the sun is closer to us than those clouds, right? And these are what leads us through empirical evidence, not just like Neil deGrasse Tyson and Elon Musk saying some snot-nosed kid made this reality and he hates us. He wants to crush us like his ant farm. All this nonsense. No, the creator, majestic, he has the most thought-out, beautiful story through this reality. We put on the other hand gravity, right? That Isaac Newton says that, like all these jackass stories that they try to come up with to rationalize something that has no actuality. He said that he theorized, Newton, that if he shot a cannonball at just the right angle at the right speed, that the cannonball would constantly fall around the ball Earth. And do you know how absolutely unscientifically ridiculous that statement is? And this man is worshipped by the, I don't know if there's 8 billion or how many billions that believe in this gravity nonsense. And then you, like I said before earlier, atoms are not provable. Jason there was a picture of the first recorded atom, and it was a cell phone taking a picture of the device that was looking at the atom. And this thing is supposed to be so small that you can't see it with your eyes. It's a cell phone shot. There's the atom. It's like, what? I mean, everything in gravity, all of the Kabbalistic made up theology or whatever you want to call their cult religions, it all just falls flat on its face when you hold it into empirical evidence.
So just remember, everybody, empirical evidence is the reason we hold every position we hold, right? And then science is a sanitized term for being a Kabbalist. So believing in atoms, believing in outer space makes you a Kabbalist. And science is what they have labeled Kabbalists these days. It's just a more sanitized term. And that goes back to Mystery Babylon, right? It's the original Canaanite religion that is being practiced.
Yes. Well said. Excellent response. And again, if anybody has any other questions, please leave it in the comment section below. Seth said something like, there was not a year 0. The AD calendar began at 1 AD, which is interesting. For that comment, Seth.
Yeah, so then there's a lost here at the transition between 1 and -1?
Yeah.
We have to look closer at that. So our last question is, what is the difference between spirituality and religion? So the answer here is, spirituality is an individualized search for the truth. It takes its form in the consideration of the deeper aspects of life and the consideration of the unknown. Spiritual people contemplate their origin and place within the world. They contemplate their own behavior regarding morality and ethics. They contemplate the way they want to define themselves as individuals. Religion is an organized belief system. It takes a common belief system and defines parameters as to what is believed doctrine and what is disbelieved. Religion is not inherently corrupt, but easily corrupted, and there can only be one true one. We tell everyone to stay out of religion because the Freemasons and Jesuits are the ones with the seminary degrees at the pulpits. Everyone that follows the path of truth could be said to be in a religion because they all hold the same belief systems, but it's not organized and there is no building you can go to where it is taught.
I mean, what a banger. Bang, bang. Is that the end? Is there more?
That's it.
So we have constantly said that we don't worship at any building but man's hands made. We worship in our hearts through our spirituality, through our dedication to the truth is how we overtly worship. We don't do it through open prayers and vain words and imaginations. We do it through our truth and pursuit of the truth to at whatever level it takes us to, even if we're wrong. We've constantly said that all these religions are made up by Freemasons and Jesuits and all these other different Order of the Rose and the Temple of the Dawn. And, and then you got the White Church of the Satan ones. And then they've got, you get your Anthony Passios, all these other different characters and their own churches. No, we are a belief system of the truth, right? The leader of our group said that he was the truth and the way, and that as soon as we were to find all truth, that we would be free, right? To live for eternal life. And then he also was going around teaching that basically, don't worry, even if you die, right, you're going to be born again. You're going to get another chance as long as you have a good heart and you believe me. That's all he said. This was the good news, right? And then he died and came back, right? He looked different too. He didn't look the same as he did. He came back and they didn't recognize him until he spoke. But what I'm trying to say is that spirituality is an evolution or the path of truth. And it's not what enlightenment is, the destruction of the ego, right? Religion is the destruction of spirituality. It was never meant to be that way. And Jason and I are devout, strong characters that are dogmatic against any form of religion or religianity that tells you what to do and what to believe. You yourself have to search within. That's where you have your true religion.
Well, I expect that in the kingdom there'll be a whole group of people that never were religious, never had a religion, never went to a church or any of those things. But it's the people that follow the path of truth. So a person that has never been exposed to any religion but heard about flat earth could still end up, right, in the kingdom, because something like flat earth, you learn something like that, you realize that you have a creator. Now all of a sudden you start searching for the creator, and if you follow the path of truth, you're going to end up in the kingdom. The straight and narrow path has got no lies in it. It's going to be the most strict, accurate truth you can possibly imagine. So sometimes, for some of us that were raised in a religion, maybe it was a different religion than Christianity, or maybe within Christianity, we were raised in a way that the scriptures were taught to us incorrectly, and it may have turned us off to it. So sure, it can be difficult actually growing up in religion, where if you were never exposed to it and you come in, clean slate, and you're just looking for the truth, might actually be, in some situations, an easier path.
Yeah, well, what ends up happening, I'll tell everybody what happens. You go there and in the beginning, everything seems beautiful. Like, you're like, oh, this is great. The people are so nice. And then all of a sudden you see this minister up there mock a homeless man, right? Or deny the book of Enoch outwardly, saying something, or say that we live in a planet. You'll hear this preacher or pastor or whatever denomination of cult or religion you're in, they'll say something that's a lie, right? And you'll be like, hey, that's not true. And then they'll ostracize you and blackball you or ban you or block you. Everywhere that I go, I am blocked. And you know what? I don't even troll anymore. I haven't trolled for a long time, to the point where I deserve to be blocked, but I'm not even allowed to comment in anyone else on YouTube's content. I get banned, blocked, deleted. So what you'll notice is anyone who actively supports a religion doesn't want anybody around them who is free folk, who is supporting themselves in their own pursuit of truth. And these are the things that we really hope that you're on the other side of the screen doing, looking for people that are authentic, that speak from their heart, and that are on a path of truth. And they inspire that in you. That's what any spiritual teacher is supposed to do, by going inwardly and working inwards on ourselves, by being as healthy as we can, as educated and as well spoken with our truthful words, our yeses, our noes. Everybody knows that if Ronnie or Jason says they're going to do it, it's going to get done, right? That's how you make who you are known in creation. That's how you leave a timestamp on reality. And it's done through doing the work, going within, and then through affirmations and through repetitive hard work, discipline. You have to be disciplined in every single area of your life. You have to not only have enough respect in yourself that whatever it is that you endeavor to do, that you put the time in and you work hard on it, right? And you have self-respect and you do good, honest work and you seek the truth. And when you say yes, it's not hard to just say yes and no when it's yes and no. Everybody, this is a simple path of living righteous and being free. And that's what we're about here on this team. There's no such thing as religianity. The truth is the Father dwells within you, within me, and that is the kingdom. And we will be brought back, right? As long as you know the truth and that you know that Yahawashai came and sacrificed his life. The son of Yahawah gave his life, right, for the witness unto the Father, and the Father witnessed him, the Son. So if you have one or the other, if you try to say that they're the same person, you're without both. It's that simple. It's the truth. And I thought you did an excellent job with these questions, and I hope people have more comments and questions below. I know you go to these other shill channels like Zachary K. Hubbard for a change, so we'll talk about this. Gematria. People say that, oh, this is truth. Gematria, right? Well, if you do the deep dive in it, you'll see that it's no more than witchcraft with tarot cards with calculators. So first off, right, if they're trying to use the scriptures or anything else, they have only a certain amount of books, right? So if you're trying to write the gematria for the scriptures or a Bible code, the problem is you need the book from the Cave of Treasures or Adam and Eve all the way down to the 8th congregation in the book of Enoch, talking about the what happens after the 7 days of creation. So you can't have a calculator without all of the data. And the same thing goes with, so the English language was created the most witchcraft-like, right? So they can calculate the words, and they've got 11 or 12 different calculators. So they've got more than one witchcraft deck. And because that's all they do, they just look at things that look like synchronicities, and then they data mine a number to go back. So everyone, and then nonsense, those two words match. So they start looking for that everywhere else. So it's nothing more than projecting one's own search for truth. Well, being truth is you just deciding that something is true, but you don't have the complete thing. So there's absolutely no fruit in gematria. It doesn't lead you to anything prophetic or truthful. All it is subjective, right? When we care about actuality to things, empirical evidence. That's what we're about, filming and doing the hard work.
Yeah, so, in a response to Cactus Jack, you're talking about the gematria, and everything that Ronnie said about the gematria is absolutely true. Now, also in his statement, he was asking or seeing synchronized numbers. So that's not necessarily the same as gematria. Synchronization is a little bit different, but you got to ask yourself, are you seeing 1111s? Are you seeing 33s? Are you seeing 66s? If those are the synchronicities that you're seeing, they have been programmed into you by the New World Order. Now, it's not to say that there aren't synchronicities that can come from the good source too. So, but they're not necessarily going to be numbers. It's not going to be, if you add up all the letters in your name, it comes to this number, and then you see that number out somewhere in the world. Synchronicities probably won't be so number centric, and they'll be more, something was just talked about, and then it happens, and then you see the synchronicity to it. So pay attention to whether or not it's gematria that you're seeing, or if it's real synchronicities.
Well,
chances are it's not going to be number based.
And if it is, it can also be taken as narcissistic or egotistical. Remember, earlier I said that the true enlightenment is the man or woman that defeated the ego, where every decision they make is from a non-biased standpoint, where they're not ego-driven, so that you don't have a character that's saying this is good or bad. You just look at everything as what is, and when you're able to conquer the ego, you are truly enlightened, right? It has nothing to do with gematria. So my full name in gematria is out to 888, and my birthday is 8880, right? So that is a narcissistic thing for me to go around and say gematria is creator made, because I even have a specific inference where I could use that as something, but I just think it's just utter nonsense. I had to type in Ronnie James Harris. I had to set it up to make it do what I wanted it to do.
Did you check it in Jewish gematria? Yeah.
No, see, this is the thing. You can project falsities into reality through your thoughts and the dictated way that you search, right? So the keywords that you search for is going to dictate the things that you find as so-called truth. But when you meet up with someone that actually has the truth, it's painful. So again, when you go to these religions, this is my last rant, you go to the religions and you see the pastor up there flirt with the girl that he was the guy that's not supposed to do that, and then you feel like that religion is now fake. And this is why the Son of the Living Creator came here and told us all to worship the Father inside our hearts, and not to follow men with buildings and bricks built upon another brick, right? Stay as far away from all that as you can. You find the truth in your own heart, and that's where it's always going to be. And then through empirical evidence and hard work, you can understand anything.
All right. Well, this has been great, brother, and I hope it's benefited some people. And if people have more questions, we'll do more of this. All right? A little different form of question and answer. We'll put it together. We'll have some slides. We'll give you some text that you can roll with. Right?
Yeah, no, you did a great job presenting it. The histone map you brought up. Again, we want to bring up again Wednesday, the occultation. What is it, Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. Central?
Yeah, just before the sun rises, that's when most people will be seeing it. But check for your location, everyone.
It should be before the sun rises in your location, not in ours, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you'll see it probably be the Jupiter is going to be the brightest star in the morning, and I guess this is a last moon, right? So as the sun rises, we'll slowly start to see less and less of the moon, but you're saying we should see the whole thing before the sun rises.
Yeah, we should see it taking place before the sun is rising. Even with the sun being up a little bit, we're expected to be able to see Jupiter on the other side. And we're just waiting to see. We want to see if we can see Jupiter in the circle of the moon. That would be spectacular.
Yeah, get that documented with some empirical evidence, right?
Yep.
So thank you, brother. I think you did a great job. I hope everybody was edified. And again, leave any questions or comments below.
All right. Good night, everyone. Where's the only place people are going to hear this, brother?
Only in the Yahawashai News Networks.
I find it hard to talk to myself. I was afraid to ask for help, but I know just how it feels. The pain reminds me it was real. I find it hard to figure it out. I gave it my all, without a doubt. I made my mind up to rise up, and then made my mind up to be a better man, a better man. No use crying about the past. There's no way to take it back. Some loose ends, they don't get tied. I had to learn to change my mind, even when the night gets dark. I look up and count the stars. I find